I'll call the City Council public hearing of July 15th, 2020 to order at noon. Roll call, please.
Mayor Copeland,
Here.
Tom Baylor is absent. Kathy Sherman,
Here.
Jeff Guard,
Here.
Melina Meyer,
Here.
Ann Schaefer,
Here.
David Allison,
Here.
David Gleason is absent. That's a quorum of council.
Okay, we have a public hearing regarding emergency ordinance 1190, which is an emergency ordinance of the Council of the City of Cordova, Alaska, continuing the city's declaration of a local emergency and acknowledgement of a statewide emergency resulting from COVID-19, adopting the City of Cordova COVID-19 Health Advisory Plan, and ratifying Emergency Order 2020-09. So if you as a member of the public would like to call in and testify, that number is 253-6202. Each call will be placed on hold, and then calls will ring through in the order that they're received. So please stay on the phone until you've been addressed and thanked by the chair or council, and then please hang up after your comments are finished, and those can be up to 3 minutes. So we'll wait for calls now regarding ordinance 1190. That number again is 253-6202. I'll just take advantage of a minute of dead air here to just remind the public that all of the city council agendas and draft minutes and minutes are posted on the City of Cordova's website. That's at cityofcordova.net. And at the top of that homepage is the COVID-19 link, and that goes to all the latest updates and health advisories and resources for businesses and citizens regarding the pandemic and resources and requirements during this time. There's also daily updates there, or well, frequent updates, and we also update on the radio and work with our medical team partners in Native Village of EAC to get information out on our 424 info line, 424 INFO, and 424 well line. Is that right? WELL? 424 WELL. So we're currently holding a public hearing on emergency ordinance 1190, and the telephone call-in number again is 253-6202 to provide public testimony on that emergency ordinance regarding our declaration of a local emergency resulting from the pandemic, the health advisory plan, and ratifying the emergency order 2020-09.
Three more in other. Today.
It's not us.
I know. But whatever other is small, and they've got 7 in the last 2 days.
And it's not Valdez.
No, it's small. Gotta be under 1,000 people. The other. Now these goes out of their way to say. No,
Yep.
it's not.
Yep.
I think we've made it clear that. I just noticed it. I haven't seen today's. Clay, once we get to the special, I forgot to put pending agenda on there, but we should at least discuss that at the very end in case, if we need more meetings or whatever.
Yeah. So again, our regular meeting is scheduled to start at 12:15. So we do have a little bit of time here for the public to call in regarding emergency ordinance 1190, which is the continuing city's declaration of a local emergency and acknowledgement of a statewide emergency resulting from COVID-19, adopting the City of Cordova COVID-19 Health Advisory Plan, and ratifying Emergency Order 2020-09. So we'll just keep the lines open at 253-6202 for anyone who would like to testify. I retrieved all my stack of these checkout forms, so I'm well stocked.
Oh, yeah, I kept wondering how you were going through them so fast. Because he kept bringing them with him.
What are
I
they?
thought he kept leaving them in his office, in his box.
Yeah, I'll just leave them in this.
It's the forms I make for him to do.
Oh, excuse me. Yep.
Those are really handy.
There's a call? There's a call? Can't hear you. You're mumbling. On. I know. There's a caller, Clay.
Okay, we have a caller. Okay, you're on the air. If you'd like to please state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Yes, hi, this is the Ross Mullins. I'm calling in to just voice my
I'm sorry.
concern about the
Wait a second, we're having a,
opening in September.
excuse me, we're having a really hard time hearing you. You might mute YouTube in the background if you have it on, and then maybe just a little distance from your microphone or something.
Yeah, I find I'm not able to mute you for some reason. Really, can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better. And so what was your name for the record, please?
My name is Ross Mullins.
Oh, okay.
And I'm really calling in to urge the council to really review and assess the safety of reopening the public schools this fall. I believe it has the potential to create a unmitigated problem here in town, and I was really grateful to see the strong actions of the council in the early stages of the COVID evolution in Alaska. But we are now one of the few states spiking, or not few states, quite a few states are spiking, but I know our geographical distance gives us a certain level of protection, but by the same token, it gives us the same nature as a petri dish. Our borders are pretty well closed, except anything starting in the community would create a pretty rapid spread exponentially. And since there are a lot of older folks that reside here, the family, extended family members, it would quickly be transmitted from the schools into the broader community and cause our small medical team here in the community to quickly fail. People would have to be flown out of here on a regular basis to Anchorage. We might not even have the capacity at that time. So it's concern. I know I'm in the minority, no doubt, but I hope the council will weigh the pros and cons for this, and the deliberation, because school openings are coming fast upon us.
Okay.
For me, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Ross. Appreciate it. And if you could hang up when you're done. So I'm just going to restate that for council, just in case you didn't hear it clearly. The caller is Ross Mullins. He wanted to thank the council for your early and quick action to help protect the community, and also urge the council to consider the plan for reopening the school and assessing the pros and cons and the health risks that might expose extended family members and those at risk in the community too. So thank you for those comments. And the phone lines are open again at 253-6202. And that's a public hearing regarding emergency ordinance 1190, which is ordinance continuing the city's declaration of a local emergency and acknowledgement of a statewide emergency resulting from COVID-19, adopting the City of Cordova COVID-19 Health Advisory Plan, and ratifying Emergency Order 2020-09. That number again is 253-6202, and we have about 4 minutes left here in the public hearing. This is in between unfinished business and audience participation, you think?
Yeah.
Big camera up right there. Yeah.
I thought it was 11. I didn't know.
Okay, that concludes our public hearing on emergency ordinance 1190. So I'll adjourn the public hearing. I'll call the city special council meeting of July 15th, 2020 to order at 12:15. Roll call, please.
Mayor Copeland,
Here.
Tom Baylor is absent. Kathy Sherman,
Here.
Jeff Guard,
Here.
Melina Meyer,
Here.
Ann Schaefer,
Here.
David Allison,
Here.
and David Gleason is absent. That's a quorum of council.
Okay, and council, I'm going to add if there's no objection, I'm going to add an item FF under pending agenda, just so council has a chance to discuss our next meeting time and so forth. It's not really a agenda action item, it's just an administrative addition. So is there any objection? Okay, hearing none, are there any other additions to the agenda council would like? Okay, all those in favor of the agenda? I should say, is there anyone opposed to approving the agenda with that additional item on it? Okay, hearing none, the agenda is approved. Does council have any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications to disclose? Hearing none, we have here in the room, council, before we go to communications, we have City Manager Helen Howarth, City Clerk Susan Bourgeois, have the Public Works Director Sam Greenwood, and our Finance Director Ken, and Jason Gabrielson on IT. There's no members of the public here in the audience. So under communications by and petitions from visitors, guest speakers, do we have an incident management team report?
This is Paul. We do not have one right now.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Council, do you have any questions of incident command? Okay, hearing none. There is opportunity for audience comments regarding agenda items. That number again is 253-6202. If you'd like to call and make any comments on agenda items. We'll go ahead and proceed with staff reports while we wait to see if there are any audience comments on agenda items coming in. We haven't had any the last couple special meetings, so. I have a staff report. Manager Howarth.
I just want to chat a little bit about what happened last week. We did have our first positive community case, and that positive community case was centered in City Hall. And I really want to reach out and thank everyone for participating in that exercise. I think it was good that City Hall was impacted rather than a business locally that might have been shut down. We did close for 3 days just to make sure we had the time to kind of get ourselves together, give staff an opportunity to feel safe and get tested. And then we cleaned the offices over the weekend very thoroughly. We included infrared treatments, carpet cleanings, everything. So we're back in business, and I just wanted to share that with everyone that we followed the health directives of both the state and our local medical team, and now all of us, with the exception of the individual who is COVID positive, we are all safe to return to work and participate in the community. I want to defer to Sam, who has something to report. I think it's in your packet. There's an HVAC system report. That was one of the requests of council to really evaluate our systems here, HVAC systems here, to make sure that we were up to standards with air replacement and other things in this building. And I think that report is clear, but if you have any questions, Sam is here and can answer those questions. And that pretty much is it. Oh, I also want to really give a shout out to the community kudos to the canneries. They have been amazing in terms of keeping us safe from COVID. We had a couple of early cases and have had nothing to report since then, while other communities throughout the state are seeing pretty significant numbers of local cases through their seafood processing industries. So our team here is doing a fabulous job, and I really want to have all of us acknowledge that and give thanks to our cannery partners. Any questions of Sam around the HVAC report?
Mayor Copeland, this is Sherman.
Councilman Sherman.
Hi, thanks. I'm not really questions. I just, I'm really, the HVAC report was kind of interesting, and I enjoyed it, reading it, and I learned a lot. But I also just wanted to ask that I talked to Malvin earlier today, so I understand that the police and fire department, the old City Hall building, will also be having its HVAC looked at. And I was wondering, I think the darkie's too old, and that's kind of a non-question, but what about the schools and other facilities in our community? Are they having similar testing or reporting? What's that?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I could maybe check in with the schools.
Yeah, okay, Sam. I was just curious. I wanted to just make sure we were treating all our facilities as best we could.
Yeah, both Bedarkie and the police public safety building are old, and so they don't have the abilities that we do at the Cordova Center, although Malvin has thought about and talked with Alex about potential ideas for those buildings as well.
I do want to,
That's great, thanks.
I can reassure you that the hospital is looking at all of their systems, and the school district, as having its own operating procedures and everything, is evaluating how they're going to safely bring kids back to school. And I know that includes facility issues. So they're looking at that, but we as city haven't addressed those directly with either the school district or with the hospital.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Okay, I just want to add, before I go on with further questions, Dr. Sanders is on the line and available for questions. As manager said, the CCMC has been looking at their HVAC system and particularly UV treatment to the air for COVID-related items. So, Councilor, are there other questions of Public Works or City Manager or the staff reports? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on to unfinished business and new business. We haven't had any audience calls. So emergency ordinance 1190 is an emergency ordinance of the Council of the City of Cordova, Alaska, continuing the city's declaration of a local emergency and acknowledgement of a statewide emergency resulting from COVID-19, adopting the City of Cordova COVID-19 Health Advisory Plan and ratifying Emergency Order 2020-09. What is the will of council?
Mayor Copeland, this is Sherman.
Councilman Sherman.
I move to adopt.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt.
This is Melina, second.
And we have a second, Vice Mayor Meyer. Councilman Sherman, would you like to speak to your motion?
I just feel comfortable with this at this time after knowing that the incident command has worked with the city to review and update our plan. And so I'm in favor of adopting it.
Vice Mayor Meyer, would you like to speak to your second?
Yeah, I would just like to echo what Councilmember Sherman said, knowing that the incident command team works with the city to adopt this. I think it's good. I don't know if there's anybody in the room that wants to kind of speak to those changes or that's part of the incident command team, but I think that would be helpful to add to the discussion if there is somebody that can.
Okay, noted. Councilman Baylor is absent. Manager Howarth, would you like to or be able to just give a brief overview of what the changes are?
Sure. The only change is now we have a health alert system. I'm going to let Paul speak to it, but as you all know, Council has agreed to go with the state's green, yellow, red system of evaluating local or statewide health issues. On page 35 is our coding system. And just so you know that green, yellow, red is still there. Numbers 1, 3, and 5 are, levels 3 and 6, no, 5 are the state plans. And where we deviate is levels 2 and 4. And I'll let Paul speak to that.
Yeah, thank you. So we've created the different levels. The state has the 3 green, yellow, and reds, but that doesn't do anything for local communities like Cordova. When we have medical issues, the state doesn't stand up and say, okay, this is what you should be doing. We need to come up with our own agendas. And so what we've created is a 5-level step. And as you can see on page 35 of the council packet, level 1 is open. There's no restrictions, no mandates. We are like 2019, everything is hunky-dory. As we move into level 2, this is an advisory, kind of like our tsunami and earthquake warnings, where we are paying attention to what's going on. And again, this is all medically driven. And in the packet, you can see that there are the different steps that the state has for us to go by. As we move into level 3, a watch, this is where we kind of were at the beginning of last week after 4th of July, where the medical staff was inundated with testing, and we could have potentially moved into a level 3 and asked the state for more equipment, more PPE, more testing capabilities, but we really weren't there just yet. And then as we move into the level 4, the warning, we are moving into what we call the state's red. And so basically what this gives the community, the city manager, the city council, is a way to ask the state for us to move into this outbreak warning, which consists of rapid increases in cases, and we can't control what's going on. We never want to move into a level 5. What this gives the community is an idea that, okay, if we move into a level 3, it does state that we are going to prepare the community for possibly closing public spaces and implement city rules and mandates. If we had to do that, then we would ask the state that we would move into a level 4 where we cannot control an outbreak in Cordova, and that does give the city council the tools to use and the city manager the tools to use to do that. If we ever had to go into a level 5, that's the ultimate worst case scenario. So this just kind of gives the community an idea that if we're in an advisory, okay, kind of cool, we're just doing what we're doing. We do have the mask mandate or the mask rule. We do have some travel restrictions, but not necessarily having the incident management team ramp up. It's still a medically based scenario. If we did move into the level 3, this is where the community would really have to pay attention to what's going on and listen to the city council and the city manager and also the medical team, that we really do need to pay attention to what's going on. And then we just continue to move through, but it also gives us a chance to step back, and we can go to a level 2 at any time And whenever we do move into a level 1, that's going to be, you know, probably from the state perspective and the medical team's perspective as to what does that mean, and can we open up travel restrictions, and do we remove the mask mandates and things like that. So it's there for the public to see, and it's also there for this document will go into our emergency operation plan at some point. We're trying to revise that a little bit, but again, this is just COVID-19 based, and so if anybody has any questions, I'm here.
Councilman Vice Mayor Meyer, does that answer your question, kind of, or your requests for an overview of the changes?
Yeah, I think that was great. I think it was good for the discussion and for the public to kind of get a rundown directly from the incident management team about those changes and what those levels mean. So thank you.
Okay, Manager Howarth had something to add as well.
I just want to let everyone know that because council agreed to go with the state, we just needed a mechanism to both identify community as well as to communicate to the state under which we might deviate from what the state is asking of us. So this clearly articulates exactly under what conditions we might make a change to a local driven response rather than following the state mandate. So this is a real helpful document, I think, for everyone.
Yeah, it keeps us on good legal footing if we have to.
Yeah. So if we need to, we can go to the state and say, these are the reasons why we are deviating from what the state is requiring at this moment in time. And this is the rationale, and this ordinance allows us to do that.
So I'll continue with discussion on the motion, and you can incorporate any questions you have for the incident team regarding changes there. And I'll just go down my list here. Councilman Guard.
I can support this. It brings us in line with the state, which makes some things easier to function, but gives us off ramps if we have unforeseen or unwanted scenarios in the future in Cordova. So I can support this.
Okay. Councilman Schaefer.
She texted me that she's been
Hi, I'm back on. My phone keeps kicking me off, so if you do come to me at some point, I'm trying to reconnect. But yeah, I'm in support of this. I like that the metrics for each level, are clearly defined, easy to understand. They're medically based, but they're also tailored to Cordova, because the statewide metrics don't necessarily work for our population size and the type of medical services that we have here. So I think if it's helpful to the command team and our medical staff and the community, then I can support this.
Councilman Allison.
Yeah, I don't think it's any secret of my opinion on whether or not we're, well, I think we've been preparing for an emergency. I think we're probably now prepared for an emergency. I just don't see us in an emergency at this point in time, but maybe my emergency definition is different than most. However, that said, I'm going to support the motion because I understand that it, the way politics work and funding works and resource allocation works from both the state and the feds. I think we need to do this. My only concern, which doesn't have to be dealt with right now, is I would like to see us somehow write in here that the schools will determine mask use during the school. Whether or not it's appropriate. I think for some grades it probably is. My second grader, you'll be spending all day trying to keep his off the ground. So I think I would just as soon have the school deal with that. As far as I don't know if maybe it's allowed already with our mask mandate. But anyway, since this goes till August 31st or something like that. School starts before that, so I would like to see us before that time work with the schools and make sure that they're good with what we've got mandated there. So other than that, you know, I think the extra levels are fine. I support the motion, but I'd like to see us look at the mask thing for the schools.
Councilman Allison, if there's no objection from council, and I had this thought a little earlier on the agenda regarding the citizen calling in, to just have the clerk reach out to school board representative, I guess, to get a report on our next meeting from the school board representative on where they're at in their planning process and what their thoughts are to date on their reopening process for schools or for schools this fall for council.
Mr. Mayor, this is Mr. Tremblay.
Paul.
Yes, I believe we understand that the school board and the school district will have another conversation, I believe July 25th, to discuss opening the schools. I know Heather Brennan has been in contact with them, and so they'll definitely have something to report, I would say, after the 25th of July.
Okay, great, thank you. Was that all of your comments to the motion, Councilman Allison?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'd like to see us get a report at the next, whenever that is. I don't know. Whenever our next meeting is after the 25th, after they have a chance, let them know that we're interested in hearing their thoughts and sharing thoughts back and forth. So, thank you.
Okay, the clerk's captured that. So, Councilman Gleason
Is not on.
is absent. So I'm going to circle back to Councilman Sherman to see if she had any additional comments after the overview or discussion.
Thank you, Mayor Copeland. I appreciate the explanation, Paul, and I think this is a really understandable document that will be great to get out to the public, and I'm just pleased with it, and I think it will see us through the next few months or weeks, whatever this is going to be. So I'm in favor of it, and it gives us some good guidance. Always good to have guidance. So thank you.
So I think I've heard all of council in support of the motion. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Schaefer.
Councilman Schaefer.
Just for purposes of clarity, right now, so are we in a level 2 according to the new workflow?
That's what this is Paul, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's kind of where we think we're at right now, is at a level 2 advisory. And like I said earlier, after July 4th, we were kind of hovering between level 2 and level 3 because of the testing capacity of the hospital.
Great, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, a roll call vote, please.
Jeff Guard,
Yes.
Ann Schaefer,
Yes.
Melina Meyer,
Yes.
David Allison,
Yes.
Kathy Sherman,
Yes.
and Gleason and Baylor are absent. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. The next item, council, is a council approval of CARES funded purchases of portable restroom unit.
Move to approve.
Is that Councilman Gleason?
Allison.
Allison, sorry. Councilman Allison, move to approve.
Second, Sherman.
I have a second, Sherman. So I have a motion and a second to approve the CARES funded purchase of portable restroom units. Councilman Allison, would you like to speak to your motion?
I might like a little bit of a report on Well, I guess my concern, I think we need the trailer. We can use that in several places around town, and whether the camper park is the best use for it, I'm not sure. Are we still looking at possibly plumbing in permanent water and sewer to each of those spots? Would be one concern or one question, and I know that eventually that is the goal, and this trailer could certainly be moved somewhere else, but in the meantime, I'm not sure about this lean-to or whatever. I think we need to be sure that we're protecting it good and able to winterize it properly. So anyway, I guess my question was on the permanent water and sewer down there.
Manager Howarth?
I'm going to defer to Sam.
Okay, so the long-term plan for Odiak Camper Park is to expand and move the bathhouse out of the middle of the camping area. So when we talked through this project, if we went and did water and sewer to all the existing sites, we'd kind of be tearing that back out when the money boat comes in, when we get to redo the campground. So we're trying to incorporate the long-term range plan into this concept as well, which is why it would be moved to where it is. And it also then allows the Field of Dreams and the multi-use field to access wash stations, which is also another long-term goal of the Odiak Park camper. Eventually, the entire playground would be moved around to that area as well. So no, right now, with COVID care money, we are not considering permanently water and sewer to the existing camping sites. The idea is to make this work until we can redesign the entire area and then use it elsewhere.
Does that answer your question, Councilman Allison, or do you have any follow-up questions?
Thank you, Sam. Are we still looking at other restroom facilities around the town and remodeling the one at the kids' park or what?
Yep. So right now I'm working on the RFP, and on that list is a restroom at the shipyard facility, upgrading the snack shack, baseball field restrooms to more cleanable surfaces and touchless bathroom things. And let's see that.
Nirvana Park?
Nope, Nirvana's off the
Okay.
table.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm dry. I'm waiting for a bid on the permanent hand washing stations in the harbor. I'm drawing a blank on. I know there's one more project in there. I can send out an email to City Council on the RFP because I'm drawing a blank on that third big project.
No problem. Thank you, Sam. One comment, I guess, for that RFP. Make sure the doors for that snack shack building are replaced so that kids can get in and out.
They're very heavy doors for some reason.
Well, I think the logic behind the heavy doors is the wind issues at that area, and at least when I was speaking with Micah and Susie.
Yeah, I understand that if they have to be heavy, they have to be heavy, but there's got to be a better way to open them. The kids. My 7-year-old can't open and close those doors, so.
Okay.
Littler kids certainly will have a harder time.
I will talk to Micah and Susie and we'll figure it out.
So, Council, while Sam's giving a report, Councilman Baylor did have a couple of comments or questions he asked me to, and they've been largely answered. I think one was status of hand washing stations in the harbor, upgrading the fish cleaning stations to hand washing. Also, some questions or comments on the portable restroom facility at the Bedarkie to consider roofing and or insulation and a pad there, and I mentioned that to Manager Howarth, and I think those are in the RFP. And then the final item was to think ahead to if testing is gonna, and ambassadors and whatnot are gonna be out at the airport on into winter, that might be a item for consideration, but that's under the CARES Act funding. But that isn't really directly related to this motion, so. So would you like to speak to your second, Councilman Sherman?
Sure, thank you, Mayor Copeland. I'm in favor of this. I like hearing that we're kind of developing long-term plans and goals and using the CARES funding to our advantage at this time. I didn't want to hurry up and make rash decisions and throw out the long-term plans. So it's nice to hear we're kind of combining all that. And I'm in favor of this purchase.
So I'll just go through order of council for discussion. Councilman Schaefer.
Yeah, my only questions that I had were related to how this fit in with the potential redesign of the camper park at some point. So thank you for answering those, Sam. And yeah, I'm in favor. Once we don't need it at the camper park anymore, we'll definitely be able to find a spot to do that around town.
Okay, Councilman Baylor is absent. Vice Mayor Meyer.
Yeah, I'm in favor of this trailer restroom shower that's portable. I actually stayed at a campground last summer in Canada that had one pretty similar to this, and I thought it was really good. The bottom, I think it was very similar to the Four Seasons one, and easy. It looked like it was easy to clean, and I think we could use it other places too. So I'm definitely in favor of this. I think it's a good use of it and looking long term and use it in other places later on. So I'm in favor.
Councilman Guard.
I'm also in favor of it. I think it's a good interim plan that leaves us plenty of flexibility with the asset after it's no longer needed in its first home. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, Councilman Gleason is absent. I think all council have spoken in favor of the motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
David Allison?
Yes.
Ann Schaefer?
Yes.
David Gleason is absent. Kathy Sherman?
Yes.
Melina Meyer?
Yes.
Tom Baylor is absent. Jeff Guard?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, council, the next item is discussion of COVID-19 emergency response. And before we open that discussion, I'd like to preface that, Mr. Tremblay, if you could give us just an update on the dashboard of what the status of the community cases and out-of-town cases currently are, and if there's any new cases.
There are no new cases. We've had some recovered cases. So we have now gone, our last reported case was last Thursday. So we are almost a week with 0 cases. So there is some concern that we may still see some cases coming through after the 4th of July weekend, but with every passing day, that number and that possibility gets lower and lower. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
We've actually dropped one of our local residents from a positive to a recovered. So we're doing really well. And the 4th of July kind of threw us for a loop. But right now we're doing really, really well.
Okay, thank you. So, council, I just open it up for discussion of COVID-19 emergency response, and I'll just go through the list of council here. Vice Mayor Meyer.
Yeah, with the new community cases that we've had, it's great to hear that one of them has already come recovered, and I know that the updates on the Cordova radio briefing have been very informative. So thank you to everyone that has been participating in that, and encourage the public to go onto YouTube if they haven't heard those and listen to the past ones. They have just about everybody a different day talking about the cases. I guess what I'm asking for part of the discussion would be for businesses with these new cases. I know last week when they...
Oh my God.
Oh.
So it sounds like someone may be unmuted because we're getting some noises interjected there, but I just missed the tail end of that, Councilman Meyer. What was your question?
Just about businesses. Because last week, I know that there was a lot of scare going on with community cases. And is there any kind of good mechanism that we can help businesses kind of navigate through that? I know, at least for me, I was I've been help managing the reluctant, and I had a lot of employees calling wanting to stay home. We paused our in-house dining. And it was just hard to navigate, which I'm sure most businesses are having that kind of uncertainty too. But I don't know if there's anything that we can do about that. But I kind of want to open it up and put it kind of on the floor.
So I'll defer that to Manager Howarth if she'd like to, I guess, share thoughts on businesses, and then just remind that we have Dr. Sanders and Mr. Tremblay online if you'd just like some general feedback on their thoughts on, businesses operating now.
This is Helen, and I think one of the most important lessons that I've learned about this isn't managing the disease, it's managing the public's perception of the disease and the public's response to the disease. And I think last week was a really good example. We had our first community case. We knew quickly that it was a member of City Hall, but the word got out almost before we could even talk about it amongst ourselves. Not almost before, definitely before. And it wasn't long before people in the community were telling City Hall what they thought that we as residents and citizens should be doing. And I think where we all need to go, and there's certainly a lot of information, and certainly Dr. Sanders has been more than generous in giving it guidance and advice to the business community, but we all have to be mindful of what the best practice is, what the science is saying, and what we as individuals then need to do to respond appropriately. So it's hard to manage people's fears, but I think if we're all consistent in our approach and follow the guidelines that have been set out, not only by the state, but the guidelines set out by Incident Command Team and the medical team, we will protect our community and we'll be okay. Where we won't be okay is when people are telling you that you should be hunkered down in your house when you've been given no guidance to do that. And we start getting into thems and us's, and and it's complicated. And I know we as staff all experienced that last week. So to those in the business community who are struggling with their employees, we have tremendous resources. We would be happy to come talk to businesses, share information, whatever it is, to help stem the tide of anxiety and also make sure that we're being consistent in our approaches.
Thank you. Dr. Sanders, would you like to add to that?
No, that is the message. I mean, it's very difficult. None of us have really clear guidance to be able to calm the fears when we have them, when we're starting to have community cases, because when we see a glimpse of what's going on, it's always what we're seeing is actually that 2-week look back. So every day is a new adventure with this. I think what we've seen these 2 weeks, I'm really hopeful that people have been following the guidelines and we can take a sigh of relief, but we're not quite there to that point to say that yet. So it's just going to be a challenge to learn how to operate with this huge unknown.
Well, thank you, Dr. Sanders, and I want to take an opportunity to thank you on behalf of council for calling into these meetings and for your constant diligence and communications and working not only the pandemic, but also improvements and upgrades, both short term for the pandemic and longer term at CCMC. Vice Mayor Meyer, does that help answer your question?
Yeah, I just thought it was good to have that dialogue here in an open meeting a little bit. And also just want to reflect that and thank Dr. Sanders. I know she's been a big help. I've reached out to her a couple times, and it's been really helpful. And I hope that the other businesses and community members just kind of know the resources that we do have and understand that it is very hard to navigate and people's fears. It's hard. It's a hard time, and there a lot of times justified, but we also have to just follow what we can and do what we can day by day. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And then just to reiterate, City Manager Howard's comment, as mayor, I get a lot of those rumors flying at me as well. Everything from 16 new cases in the Coast Guard to people confirmed positive cases wandering all over the community and not following any of the rules. And yet we know that they wouldn't even know if they were positive if they hadn't been tested and would have showed up as one of the positive tests. So unfortunately, those rumors and misinformation don't help the businesses with their concerns. So continuing discussion on COVID-19 emergency response, Councilman Allison.
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions or just like to thank the management team and Manager Howard and the staff there at City Hall. I know it was a scary time last week, but we made it through that episode and hopefully we can avoid any more. But thanks for the excellent job everybody's doing, Dr. Sanders and Paul and Heather and PIO Sherman. Everybody's doing a great job. Thank you.
Councilman Sherman.
Sure, yeah. And everybody, those IMT meetings are very encouraging because it's an active group of volunteers who are really dedicated to making sure our community stays safe, and you can hear that in every single meeting. I was thinking with my PIO hat, and I think Vice Mayor Meyer has some great ideas there, so I will try and sculpt the next e-news, COVID e-news, maybe with some business-geared advice. And I know Barb Jewell from Sound Alternatives has also been providing some really great information, so I'm going to try and work that in as well. And no, I think my reality check today with the COVID was, you know, we need to start looking long-term, what we're going to be doing with schools, as Mr. Allison mentioned, and airport and ferry and checks. And I know we kind of just have to go one day at a time and see where testing and cases take us, but need to think ahead a little bit here. So thanks.
And Councilman Gleason is absent. Councilman Guard.
Yeah, thank you. I guess this question would either be for Dr. Sanders or Paul Crumbly. Paul was talking about we had already moved one of our local cases from active to recuperated. Were we doing a time-based or testing-based matrix for that, for ascertaining recovered?
Councilman Guard, I'm going to direct that question to Dr. Sanders.
Thank you.
So we're working really closely with the state, with the public health nurses and the contact tracers when we are managing these cases. Sometimes, depending on the industry, a case, or depending on the specific case, we will use a test-based strategy. sometimes we will use a time-based strategy. Most commonly is a time-based strategy. So we won't be releasing information regarding individuals specifically in which cases we're doing what strategy, but there is some reasoning behind those decisions, and we're keeping close contact with the state epidemiologist and having them guide us.
Dr. Sanders, could I ask for a little further clarification? So on a time-based strategy, does that include a testing element, like a certain amount of time after a negative test, or?
So the time-based strategy, if you